Hello, everyone. This is Rishil Jagral, and welcome to my new podcast. Due to the coronavirus pandemic and for the safety of others, I have decided to start this podcast in interviewing many celebrities. Today, we are joined by a very special guest. His name is Mr. Mehboob Bawa. Known for Bhai's Cafe, his name stems after Mr. Mehboob Khan. Known for Bhai's Cafe, Mr. Mehboob Bawa's name was given by his late grandfather after the director Mehboob Khan. Today we get to know more about him. Mr. Mehboob Bawa, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Rushil. It's a pleasure, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
So, firstly, tell us where did it all start for you? How did the passion for acting, story writing, and directing start for you?
It's a very good question. How much time do you have? Let me start at the beginning. And in fact, you've led into it very appropriately by mentioning that I was named Mehboob by my late granddad, my dad's dad. At the time when I was born, a couple of years before that, there was a very well-known Indian film called Mother India, which was directed by a gentleman by the name of Mehboob Khan, who was quite a prolific film director in India. And my late
Yes.
granddad, and in fact, my entire family, we're very much involved in social upliftment, working with communities, etc. And the films that Mehboob Khan made was kind of in keeping with that, telling the stories about the masses, about the
Mm,
downtrodden, about those who are perhaps coming from a different path of life, and how they were, integrated into society and the efforts they
mm,
made to live a better
mm,
life. And my granddad loved his movies. And when I was born, he set about and he said, well, there were other names that were, bandied about, but he said,
mm,
no, he's going to be named Mehboob. And it's quite interesting that being named after a film
mm.
director, I ended up in the
Yes.
film industry, and aside from the film industry, my name, Mehboob, means beloved. And I ended up being
Yes.
in radio as well for many years, and I still am in radio. And I ended up doing a love song show for many years, and I was called the Love Doctor. So, my name means beloved. I ended up doing, love song shows, plus I'm in the film industry.
Mm.
So I do believe there's some
Yes.
synchronicity there.
Absolutely. I think your grandfather definitely had a long sight vision, seeing that, his own grandson would definitely be in the industry one day. I can really see that he has the good touch for you. Okay,
I think
so
so.
you have been known for working with Oscar-winning director Bille August. Tell us what was that more like?
That was an amazing experience. So a couple of years ago, it could have been 2005 or 2006, I was cast in the role of Ahmed Kathrada in a film about
Yes.
Nelson Mandela called Goodbye Bafana. And the director
Mm,
was Bille August, who is an Oscar-winning director. And that was just an amazing privilege to work with him on that film. Mandela was played by the American actor Dennis Haysbert, who was in a very prolific TV show called 24, which starred Kiefer Sutherland. And
mm,
I know there's an Indian version as well, which stars Anil Kapoor. He did the Indian version. But the American version was with Kiefer Sutherland, and Dennis Haysbert played the president of the United States of America in that show, and he ended up playing Mandela in this film. And it was a really,
mm.
really amazing experience. We learned more about the struggle days. I mean, we part of the struggle, but I mean Mandela's early life. We got to shoot on a set of Robben Island, which was built right here in Cape Town at a studio, not even a studio at the time. It's a youth center in an area called Ottery, which a lot of film
Yes.
companies use. In fact, for our very own film, Bhai's Cafe, that was our production offices were at that location. But working with Bille August was just an honor and an immense pleasure. And he gave me some really great tips about, the role and what he expected from me as an actor. And there were a few times where he came back to me, and you always love the feedback from any director, but to get, feedback from him coming back to you to say, oh, nailed that scene, or I loved your expressions there. It really helped the other actor, etc. Because
Yes.
it is a team effort at the end of the day. And I also
Yes.
got to meet on that set the cinematographer. I hope I'm going to pronounce
Mm,
his surname correctly. It's Robert Fraze or Frazee. He's a French cinematographer who worked on a
Yeah.
film, one of my favorite films called Ronin, which starred Robert De Niro a good couple of years ago.
Wow.
Um, so it was a wonderful, combination of international talent and South African talent that came together on that production.
Oh, amazing. Robert De Niro. He's a real inspiration to me with his acting. Hey, I'm sure it must have been such a pleasure meeting someone like that.
Yeah, well, we didn't meet Robert De Niro, but the cinematographer
But
of our
cinematographer,
film also
yes.
worked with Robert De Niro. And that's, just
Mm.
another simple story to share with you. I mean, a couple of years ago, I acted in a film called Return to King Solomon's Mines. It was a TV show, and it was a very much like an Indiana Jones kind of a style film. We shot it in Kenya, and
Yes.
I auditioned for another film at that time. And when
Wow.
I audition for films, I always look to see who's involved. Which producer it is or director, which other actors are perhaps involved. And I did a bit of research on this film that I auditioned for, and I saw that Dean Devlin, who's the producer of films like Independence Day and Stargate, some big Hollywood blockbusters, was the producer. And I didn't get the part. And I was so disappointed. But 2 days later, my agent phoned me and said, "You've got an audition for another film." So I went in, but I was so, disappointed of not getting the other role that I didn't even bother, checking who is involved in this movie. So I go for the other audition, and I then get that part, and it turns out it's also produced by Dean Devlin. He was doing two films in Cape Town at the time. I got to meet him and his wife, and the director, Jonathan Frakes, was in Star Trek. And just sitting down with them, so Dean Devlin tells us a story, and he says, it's amazing, that you're sitting at this table, and we have been working with actors like Jack Nicholson and so many other people as well. In fact, the lead actor of the film, Noah Wiley, he was in the TV show ER. He also worked with Jack Nicholson. He says, so you one step away from another major actor. You're working with me, but I've worked with Jack Nicholson. That was a whole lot of fun, just listening to their stories. It's always great to be on set.
Well, I must say, Mehboob, you have been meeting very, very, very big names, which I hope someday I will have the opportunity to meet and even work with sometime in the future. What has it been like, the journey, meeting these big people and having to associate yourself with them?
It's really wonderful. I'm all about learning. One never stops learning, and in whatever craft or industry that you are in. And I always open myself up to hearing from others. And when you meet people like this who are big names, they're just people like you and I. At the end of the day, and some of them are humble, some of them sadly are not. I've met many Bollywood actors in my time, and some big stars who I really revered or were big fans of. And then when I finally got to meet them, I was very disappointed, sadly. But many of them are also really amazing people. So it's just, for me, it's about sitting down, being able to have a conversation, and learning from them and learning about their craft and how they go about setting up a role or studying for a role and how they prepare. And hopefully that helps me, moving forward as well. And in South Africa as well, we have some talented, really wonderful actors. I mean, I know you've also acted with many well-known South African artists.
Absolutely,
and we can learn from each other. You're never too big, to be able to share, from your experiences. I truly believe I do a lot of work with the youth as well. I have over the years. With students from different schools in underprivileged communities, and everyone has dreams and aspirations, and it's important for us to be able to try and help and assist where we can. And those artists and actors, whether they're from Hollywood or Bollywood or even South Africa, who take the time on a set when you have a quiet moment or a quiet day to come to you and say, I know you asked me a question the other day, but I was very busy then, but I've got a few minutes now. Do you want to chat? Those are the people that I hold, to high esteem. And I think, well, that's truly a wonderful personality, because they're taking the time out of their schedule to be with you. And I've learned a lot, from people over the years, and I pay testament to them.
That is so wonderful. Mehboob, what you've said is so true. At the end of the day, yes, we are actors. People love us and they hold us in high regard. But at the end of the day, we are all human beings. Like, I go out to places and people see me and they come up to me. You can actually see that they're scared. They don't know what to say, what to do. And I remember one of the moments I had with one of the fans who told me they were just too scared to come up to me. They just didn't know what to say or what to do. I said to them and I inspired them to say, in saying that we are all at the day ordinary human beings. I've worked with such great co-stars when I was in the sets of the Kandasamis. Meeting them, getting to know them, they are just ordinary human beings like us, like we human beings. And when I met Bollywood actor Vivek Oberoi, actress Alisha Ramsundar, I went up to them, I approached them. The only vibe I could only get is that they're just ordinary human beings like us. And it's so good that you to see that, you really, really consider yourself to be a human being. You are telling others out there that, no matter who you are, no matter what you are just a human being who has daily routines in life. So, Mehboob, apart from being an actor, writer, director, producer, you're also a motivational speaker and a MC. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I really wear a lot of hats in this industry. It's because I love the industry so much, and I love every aspect of it. And I want to kind of dabble in different parts of it. So the MC bit started many years ago. So I spoke about my late grandfather, my dad's dad, and then my dad inherited that position as well. So because we were very involved in the community, my dad and my late granddad were often called upon families, when it came to weddings and events and functions, to become a program director or master of ceremonies. And then that fell on me. I loved what they did, and I was kind of inspired by them. And I said, I want to do that as well. So even from a young age at school, when we had school events at high school now, I used to MC the functions and the events, and I was involved in the drama societies, etc. at school. And even there, I suppose it started, the seed was planted, was as we spoke about being human beings and trying to help and be of benefit and assist others. Even there, it was an opportunity, being a part of productions or school plays, to encourage and your fellow students to get involved and to motivate them and to inspire them as well. And that then moved on in years. I emceed lots of international concerts. I remember the very first big concert I did a few locals, Bollywood shows, etc. I was part of a Indian music band in the 80s here in Cape Town, and I emceed their concerts. And when Pankaj Udas, the Ghazal artist, came to South Africa in the early 90s, after the embargo on the musicians and stuff was dropped, and lots of these artists then came over, I emceed an event, a welcome event for him that the promoters had put together. And the next day, I got a call from the promoter saying, Mehboob, the international promoter was at the event last night, was really happy with the way you conducted the program, and he'd like you to MC the concert. And I was, totally, completely taken aback. I mean, there were 5,000 people at the Good Hope Center that night. I opened the show, and interestingly enough, my dad, because I wasn't that well versed in Urdu or Hindi, I opened the concert, and my dad then opened the second half, and he did it in Urdu. So it was quite a nice combination, having myself and my dad there. The motivational speaking aspect of it, I teamed up with a gentleman. His name is Abdul Ghani Foplonka. He's from Cape Town, a really wonderful person. He is a self-made man. He's got a standard 6 or 7 education, but he's built probably the biggest independent insurance company in the Western Cape, coming from humble beginnings. And he also believes that, it's important to give back. So while he's made it in life, he wanted to encourage and inspire others to show them that you truly can be the best that you can be. It depends on your mindset and how that you move forward in life. And I then teamed up with him, and we did a lot of talks with corporates as well as with kids and youth and schools, where we spoke to them about living your best life, and following your journey and living your passion. So that's the combination of being an MC as well as doing some motivational work. But that never stops, it's never, for me, it's just every day, no matter who I meet, when I'm on the radio doing my radio shows, it's just about sharing a little story about yourself, or even something that you've heard about somebody else. And you never know who may listen to you at that point and that may benefit from that story.
I always say, leave hate, let's motivate. Because that's what we need in every human's life right now, is to leave hate, let's motivate. Because that will take us forward in life and not make us look at the past and have so many regrets about what we have done. I'm just so inspired right now, Mr. Mehboob Bawa, as to how you've met so many people, you've met so many actors, you've collabed with them, you've really shown so much of love for the industry. I mean, I've just started like 4 years I'm into the industry, and I can say there's a long way for me to go. And I'm sure there's a long way for you to go as well. No matter how old you get, you always have a long way in life to go to in any field that you are in. And they always say, you are never too old to act. You are absolutely never too old to act.
Never, not at all. I mean, it was Morgan Freeman, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure I read somewhere that Morgan Freeman only started acting when he was in his 40s. And then he just got all these big, big roles thereafter. And there are many stories like that. But also the other thing I just want to quickly add is that, while we try to motivate and we inspire, and people look at us as artists yourself, I mean, you've been in the Kandasamis, and those were big hits, so you're very lucky and blessed. But that doesn't mean we don't have challenges, that we don't also have trials and tribulations that we have to go through on a daily basis. People see the bright lights and the glitz and the glamour and they say, oh, wow, Rushil was in Kandasamis. He must have an amazing life. Oh, wow, Mehboob met so-and-so and he worked with that one. He must be so happy and he must be so blessed. And we're blessed and we're grateful for the opportunities, but we also have to deal with our challenges.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And being in this industry for 4 years, I can say the income has been a very long stretch, a very dragging stretch. And I think for any actor, that is for you, for any actor or actress in this field, income can sometimes, if you don't have a 9 to 5 job in a soapy or a series, it's going to be a long stretch for you. And tell me something, having these challenges in the industry, how have you managed to overcome them?
So again, that's why I suppose I'm blessed and I'm lucky and grateful that I can wear many hats, because you are right. I mean, the distance between one role and the next could be quite long. And how do you stretch, the finances? So for me, I've been very lucky in that I've also worked in radio and television. In fact, I started my career as a television presenter back in 1989. So this is my 31st year in the industry. But I started in television in Johannesburg. I'm from Cape Town, but I moved up there. Then I came back and I started working in radio. But for a long time before I got into radio, it was just acting. And then I had a 9 to 5 job like others, to try and keep the roof over your head. And it was very difficult because, you've got a 9 to 5 job, then you've got to go to auditions. And what do you do? And at some point I made a choice, sat down with my parents and I said, I really, really want to give it a good go and see if I can make it as an actor or try to get into radio or do more TV work. And it was a challenge. It were times where, I was struggling so much and I thought, should I continue? What do I do? Do I just give it up and take up a 9 to 5 job? And I didn't. I persevered. And I was lucky in 1995 to get involved in radio with community radio. And I was with a community radio station called The Voice of the Cape for about 3 years. And then I left them and then I got into commercial radio and I've moved from various radio stations over the years. But I am in radio, so that's kind of my daily job. But I also do a fair bit of acting in commercials and obviously in films as well. My wife and I mean, we've now worked on our very own first film and she's produced the film. So I'm very proud of her, achievements in that regard as well, that she took on this task of producing the film. And she was mentored by our director who co-produced the film with her. And to her credit, she's also moved on in the industry. She's now working on an international co-production with the director. She's looking at doing another local film with some other filmmakers later this year as well. Obviously, the lockdown has clamped down on some of the production, so that's been a challenge. But it's important to be able to be as versatile and flexible, I think, and that'll help you move forward.
Tell us about Bhai's Cafe now. Tell us, how did that come about for you and how has it been like having your wife on board?
Yeah, it's not very difficult to have your wife being your boss, I must tell you. I tease, I joke. It's interesting. So my wife and I, so Rozia Raut, she goes by her maiden name, although the company is Rozia Bawa because my surname is Bawa. But anyway, back to the film. It started life as a sitcom. We came up with this idea. So it just shows you also how long it can take for an idea to germinate and to be kind of molded. And then when it's ready, it can take a long time. So in 2005, which was 15 years ago, my wife and I came up with this idea of a TV show called Bhai's Cafe about an Indian family who own a little corner cafe, which is quite common in South Africa and in other parts of the world. And it would be telling the story about their day-to-day life, etc., and the people who interact with them, their customers, etc. And we then pitched the idea back in about probably after we developed it and developed a few episodes in about 2007, 2008, to the major TV channels in South Africa, who all liked it, but they wanted to commission us to do it, but then they would own the copyright, and we would then just be producing it for them. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted to hold on to the rights because we also felt it may become a movie at some point, and if we relinquish the rights, then we wouldn't be able to do that. So we left it, and we worked on other projects over the years, and I got more involved in radio, etc. And I then, I think it was in 2012 or 2013, when we met the director, Maynard Clark, who then spoke to us about this and said, I believe you guys have some ideas for shows, etc. And we pitched this to him, and he said, yes, it's a really cool concept, but have you ever thought of making the movie? Because if you make the film, you'll then own the rights, and it will put you in a stronger position, perhaps to negotiate with channels if you want to do the sitcom later on. And we had never thought of that. And then introduced us to a writer, Aaron Naidu from Joburg, who was an award-winning writer. We then collaborated with him on the script. And at some point, then we developed it further with another writer from Cape Town. And then Rizia and Maynard worked on the film as producers, and I ended up acting in it. I wasn't going to act in it initially. I had somebody else in mind for the lead role, and they both said to me, "No, you are Bhai. You should be Bhai." It was just a wonderful experience. I mean, Rizia worked with Maynard. He mentored her as a producer. But all credit to her, she is still busy with, the production in different ways, although the film's now completed. It's had a run on the circuit. Sadly, we were hit by the lockdown and also load shedding at the time. So that was a bit of a challenge for us.
Yes, I understand, the coronavirus pandemic has put a lot of hold in many films being seen in the cinema right now. But I'm hoping that as soon as they are relieved, that we can see Bhai's Cafe on the big screens again sometime.
Yeah, it may still, play at certain film festivals on the big screen, but I don't think it'll go back on general run on the cinema. But it has been playing for quite a while now on DSTV box office. And I just want to make mention to those who are listening to this podcast that the people seem to think that you have to be a DSTV subscriber to be able to watch the film, but that's not the case. All you have to really do is register on the DSTV box office website. And then you can download, you pay, I think it's 25 Rand or something, and then you can download a link to the film. It's just a few days left. The film is still only available until the 17th of August to download. So that's, I think, next Monday. But it is still available, for people to view, and hopefully they will go and check it out there. And then we are negotiating with platforms like Showmax and some others to see if we can get the film aired there as well.
Yes, I think it will be very, very good to have Bhai's Cafe on all social media platforms being streaming. These days, if we look at the internet, it's the main platform to put any film or any such type of content material that you'd like to present to people.
Yeah, no, sure. And we've also been approached. We have obviously a local South African distributor who's looking at some of those aspects, but we've also been approached by some international distributors as well, or sales agents who've expressed an interest in the film. So they're also looking at it at the moment.
Have you produced or directed any other movies? And if so, tell us more about the experiences of those films.
No, so this was the first film that we've produced, but we have done a couple of religious-orientated television shows that were played on a channel called Deen TV, which was on the Starsat platform. That was a couple of years ago. And they also, we tried something a little bit different. So we did the shows. It was called Living Ramadan. So it's about the Muslim month of Ramadan, the month of fasting. But we approached it as a magazine show. So if you think of shows like Top Billing, we looked at that premise, and we used, so Top Billing, their location used to be houses, fancy, beautiful houses, etc. And the presenters were then on location at those houses, and they do links to different inserts, from that location. So we used mosques as our location. So we could tell the story of how the mosque was developed and what they do in the community in our links, but we linked to different inserts. Our inserts were international. I mean, we had people from abroad sending us little selfie videos explaining how they celebrate the month of Ramadan in the country that they are in. So we had people from the UK, from Qatar, from the US, from Australia, etc., on the show. We then had non-Muslims who are from South Africa and often celebrities sharing their experiences about growing up with Muslims as friends and what they know about Ramadan, etc. It was very entertaining. It was done in a very entertaining fashion. We had a musical element to it as well, showcasing local, artists on the show. So it was done in very much in a magazine kind of format. So that was something that we produced ourselves as a company, and Razia produced it, my wife, and I directed that show and presented it. But Bhai's Cafe is the first film that we've produced together. And as I said, Maynard directed it. But now we're working on a couple of other projects where we've been approached by other producers to collaborate with them. But there are also one or two other stories that we are working on for ourselves.
Mr. Mehboob Bawa, I think it's great to hear that you have upcoming projects. Can you tell us at least a little bit of a spoiler, anything that you can tell us about the upcoming projects? What's in store for Mr. Mehboob Bawa in the near future?
Well, I can't elaborate on the productions that we are looking at with other companies because we've signed non-disclosure agreements there. But I can maybe give you a little bit of an inkling of stuff that we are busy with. So one of the films that we are looking at doing and we're busy writing at the moment is a horror film. And then the other one is a sequel to Bhai's Cafe, potentially. And if it doesn't go the sequel route for the big screen, then potentially for live streaming platforms, or it may then go to the sitcom that we were going to develop before. So that's projects that we're doing in our company that we've been doing.
That is great, Mr. Bawa. Mr. Bawa, firstly, I would like to say thank you so much for for being over here on this platform. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here, and it's a great honor and privilege to be inspired by such a great actor like you, who has met so many producers, directors, actors, and it just doesn't end. I mean, you have like a non-ending story to the film industry, and that's so great. And I must say that I'm looking very, very forward in the near future to working in one of your movies. I mean, I'm sure that will be a great opportunity to be one of your movies.
Happy to chat more about this, and if the opportunity allows, then certainly why not? I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity that you've given me now to also to share a little bit about my life, my story, and hopefully whoever listens to it may be inspired to live their passion, and move forward positively on their journey in life.
Absolutely. Mr. Mehboob Bawa, thank you so much for joining me today. And to everyone out there, please make sure you go to DSTV box office. And yes, in the near future, as you've heard from Mr. Mehboob Bawa, it will be sometime available on Showmax or Netflix. So do follow the social media links to Bhai's Cafe, and you will be updated on as to which platform this movie will be on next. Till next time, everybody, to Mr. Mehboob Bawa, thank you so much. We'll see you then.
Thank you.